So one thing to double check is the areas where we've slipped some stitches may be less flexible, and just as you're working you may notice that some of the stuffing goes up higher into the gnome, or down here where it's a little less frequently slipped. This section here is the more intense one, and so you may find that this kind of cinches in, so you can just kind of keep pulling the stuffing around and pushing it back into that. But wait till you're done, because as you work, you may just keep rearranging things. All right, we're going to start with the nose. So my back seam is not too bad for color work. It's a little gappy, but we're okay. And then here at the front, I've got my two lines of increases. You can sort of see a shaping there and there. So we're just going to center things on that. Between those two things. So I've got my nose, flipped up my brim. The brim will stay flipped up the way I've envisioned Gnana. So decide which side of your nose you think is the top. There will be one side that is probably a little less lumpy than the other. And then we're going to attach that right here at the top of the body. So the way I like to do this is to figure out again, where's my middle and which side do I like up? And then the yarn will already be coming from the middle of the nose. So we might as well secure the middle section of this style of nose. So the first thing to do is to just go under 2 legs of a stitch there. It will be an upside down V because we knit top down. It doesn't really matter, but sort of whatever's center of your nose there. So go under the V and then go back into the nose, which always looks more awkward the way I'm doing it to give you the ability to see. If I was working and not worrying about the camera above, this would look a lot less awkward. So I've gone through the body that way, through the nose this way, and we'll just pull through. So now we sort of looped that center bit on. And now we want that to be the middle, so it's got to rotate up. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to move my yarn a little higher on the nose. Not all the way to the top, of course, because the top of the nose is going to be showing. And so now I'm going to go through the top of the nose, top of the body, and then back through the nose again. Tighten that up, see how it looks. Things are looking pretty good. All right, so now I'm going to roll the nose up a bit. I'm going to push my needle through and come down to the bottom third of the nose. Got my thumb holding that rolled. Now I'm going to go under the body, a little farther down on the body than we were working at the top half of the nose, and then go through the nose again. So now stop and have a look. How do things look? You can always use your ends to try to like achieve a different look. If part of it's a bit lumpy, you can always come up and come back down and kind of like push something down or tug things around. When you're finishing a gnome, really is a lot of chance to finish it up and make it look good. If you're worried about it rolling side to side, you could also bring the yarn through to the nose on the side and just snag it about the same height on the body and back through the nose. And that will stabilize it a little bit. It's less likely to twist that way. I like to align the stitches of my nose so that they're the same way as the stitches on the body and the hat. Depending on whether this is a toy or not, if it's not a toy, I would just plunge the yarn through and make it disappear. If it's going to be a toy, I'd probably secure it at least a couple more places with the second end on this side and underneath. Anything that is an appendage, kids are likely to use to carry toys, so you have to assume there's going to be quite a bit of stress. Once you've fastened it as tightly as you want, if you're going to knot it, what you can do then is bring the 2 yarns so they're in roughly the same location and tie a double knot. So just right over left, tighten up, do it again, tighten up. Now you've got a nice knot that's going to help stabilize things, and then put both ends on a needle at the same time if you can. Always makes me feel extra clever Like, I'm saving so much time and effort. Or separately if you want to. And you can either put those needles or those ends up through the nose and trim them at the nose, or down and through the body. I'm going to go through the body here. And snip right up close, and it will disappear inside. All right, so there is our little nose. All right, so next up, those of you who have glasses, now put the glasses on. Mine have little hooks, so once I get them on, it's actually, they're really firmly in there, and they take a bit of convincing to come back out. But you want to put them on sort of centered on your nose. Figure out how that's going to work. Get those there, and then we're going to use the glasses to organize where our braids are going to go. All right, so the easiest thing is just to use the braids and center them on the outside of the rim of your glass. If you don't have glasses, then I would suggest going about 3 stitches away from where you can see the nose, not where you attached it, but like 3 stitches visibly in terms of like the visuals here. So 1, 2, 3, and then I've got this here. And then then what we're going to do is we're actually going to position the arms right behind that. And I've got a few ideas for the braids. One is just to leave them as is. The other, and it might be something I'll show you once we've got the arms on, but if you make slightly longer braids, one of the neat things you can do is you can kind of bend them up and around. And this looks kind of neat and tidy. And then she's got sort of like hair. If they're longer, then you could tie them together or even bring them over here and braid them down the back. And then my last idea for you is to take them, and again, you might want to go a little bit longer. And if you trim these ends a lot more then, if you roll the braid up, you can get a really cute little bun. Well, it's not that little, depends on the size of your braid and how you tighten this, but you could get a nice little bun. This will interfere with the cloak, so those of you planning on leaving the cloak on, this may be something you want to kind of size based on the cloak, or just go with one of the other hair options for that. And so let's put on the braids, and then we'll keep exploring this. One thing to remember as we're attaching things is we will not be lowering the brim if you do it the way I have it planned, which means you're going to have to make sure that your ends are tidy and the way you've attached things is kind of on the tidier side. There's going to be a little less tolerance for forgiveness here. So I'm going to go under 1V at the very top of the body, just outside the arms of the glasses there. I'm going to go through that twice. Thread my other end on. All right, go under the same thing. And then I'm actually going to go and scoop up into this little bit of the braid here where I tied. So right here, it's so hard to see white on white, but this is where I tied the braid. So there is a loop of yarn there, and I'm going to go through that, and that'll just bring the braid a little higher up the body when I tighten it up there. All right, so now we're going to tie these, and then I'm going to put them through the body. One thing I will say is if you have strong opinions about how you want the braid to display, you can, before burying these, sort of slide the end down, bring it back up inside the body, and just catch one bit of the braid and just sort of anchor it down. If you're doing it right underneath the braid, no one will ever see it, but it would kind of anchor a point if you want it to look a particular way. Don't make that decision until you've tried it with the cloak on. You might want to leave the ends until the end. Of course, if you are making a toy, you are going to secure the braids a lot more securely than I have just shown, because we want those braids to stay on. Next up is our arms, which, as I said, we're going to position just behind the braids. So I'm just going to come here. We're going to try it right here and see what we think. So that was just one stitch beside where the braids were. So let's have a look. And that looks comfortable to me. One of the things when I'm arranging how my gnomes are placed is whether when I look at it, it looks like the body's in a natural position and the gnome looks comfortable. Sometimes they look really uncomfortable or almost like they're shrugging, or there's just something about the way the positioning is that just makes it seem awkward. But this feels pretty natural to me from the front. So I'm going to stick with it. So I'm going to go through the arm, go under that same stitch again, go through the arm, under that stitch. Now we're going to do the same thing in the other direction. So I always like to secure a V in a V shape. So first we go this way, then we go this way. Again, the more secure you want this to be, the more number of times you will go in each direction. And then if it's going to be a toy, we're going to take that V shape and we're going to turn it into a Y by lifting up the armpit, kind of spiking through the arm, spike through the arm like that, and then grab some of the body and then stitch the arm to the body in the armpit, just to provide a third direction of attachment there. And then you can make a knot. So go under half a stitch or a stitch and make a loop. Once you have a loop, you can go through it twice. Go through it twice, once, twice. Then tighten that up by nudging it closer and closer to the arm, and then push it through either the arm, you can go up the I-cord, or you can go through across the body. All right, here we go with our Gnana. I think Gnana watched Pippi Longstocking as a girl. Did you guys watch Pippi Longstocking? So here we go. If you want posable arms, by the way, you can thread some florist wire up through here, maybe before attaching it. You can also do the same for the braids if you want them to be posable. I wanted to show you something about the braids again. So like I said, this is sort of the way I had envisioned Gnana, but I went through a lot of thinking about how she'd look. One option, like I said, is to make the braids a little longer and then fold them up and back. And they look a little bit like buns from the front when you do that. And then you would just need a way to sort of secure them. If they were long enough at this point, you could have them join and then braid them down or do a ponytail or something like that. I think it's kind of a cute look. And it's very tempting for me. I may do an extra Gnana just so I can play around with the hair. Or, as I said, you could sort of do something where you trim the ends and roll the braids up into a sort of stylized festive bun. But that is going to need a little more thinking than I have in my brain right now. I just kind of can see it happening, and I know someone is probably going to do it and do a magnificent job. So there's Nana's basic shape. Like I said, you'll want to make sure that the stuffing hasn't gone too far away from where she needs it here, so she looks sort of fairly regularly shaped. One of the reasons Gnana has sort of a longer neck-like section here is because, of course, Gnana has a cloak. So let's talk about Gnana's cloak. So Gnana's cloak has been a lot of fun to design. It took a lot of work to get to the point where it would fit on her and use the right amount of yarn and look like a gnome hat, sort of standing up, going all nice and perky on top like that. So this is another place where I really see a lot of creativity coming in from a lot of you gnome knitters. So you want the top of the hood to be just above the glasses so that it's like it's over her face. Mine is just freshly steamed. It's still a little bit damp from the blocking. So one of the things I'm going to do once everything is sort of settled is I'm going to get Gnana's cloak the way I want it, and then I will pinch the sides down and kind of pinch that and get it to shape around her face a little bit better that way. But that's going to happen once I get it sorted, how I'm going to close it. Now, one option, of course, is that you don't close it. It will just sit on her because wool sort of likes to sit on wool. If you're doing that, you might want to bring the braids forward. You could even sort of sew it down to her body if you wanted. In that case, you might want to skip the arms or even the braids. See what you want to do. Another option is to simply take a length of yarn, take some of the same color as your cloak. For me, that would be red, and just a little bit down from the top of her body. I'm saying about 3.5, 4 centimeters, about 1.5 inches. Just kind of go down from the top of her body, and you could just sew that shut. And then you would still be able to get it off and on, sliding it up over her, and you would have a very tidy and sort of invisible closure there. Another option is for you to get a very small button, or maybe make like a tiny little bauble or a little bit of I-cord. If you cast on 3 stitches of I-cord, did let's say 4 rounds of it, fastened it off, and then tied it together, it would kind of bunch up almost like a bauble, and you could attach that, the button, the bauble, whatever, over here. And if you had a loop of yarn here, let's see if I can demonstrate. If you had a loop of yarn attached here, maybe coming from underneath, you could have that come up and over and have a nice little fasten there. Those of you who have the Loopy U kits, there is a little surprise in package 10 that can work like a cable needle or a stitch marker holder or a little shawl pin, which also should work for Gnana. I hope this has really helped you figure out how to make your Gnana fabulous, and I wish you happy gnoming.